Good morning, I'm Mr. Larry. We're starting a new program where I'm doing haircutting one-on-one. So what I'm doing today is I'm going to do a part of our textbook, then I'm going to turn around and do a do it section. So we can do hands-on, you can follow me and do it at home. We can make this as interactive as you want to make it. And I also get your theory chapter taught. So I'm working on chapter 16, which is haircutting, one of my favorite things. I'm on page 358. So how many of you have really got a bad haircut, right? So you can't style it, your color looks worse. So I would say haircutting is a foundational skill to everything we do in the salon. If that haircut isn't right, everything else falls down. So my goal for you today is not to teach you a bunch of haircuts, but teach you the principles of hair cutting. If I hold the hair this way and I cut it this way, it will fall this way. It's called principle-based design. The main thing I like to start off with is the head form. So basically we have little Deborah here. So we see hair. We see a head covered with hair. Is it square? Is it round? Is it oval? What's under there? That's what's important. Because if we don't know where we are on the head, we won't create the haircut we want. There's a thing called reference points in haircutting. I want my bob to my jawline. I want my haircut above my ear. My bangs need to be at my brows. I want my bangs diagonal. Please don't cut my hair shorter than my waist. These are all reference points on the body. So when we do our consultation, we can use these to talk to our customers about the haircut, where how long it is, how short it is, things like that. Consultation is key, and we're going to talk about that a whole lot in this event, because how much volume do we want? How much of anything do we want? So we've talked about the reference points, but under the head are all these shapes. This is my horizontal breakdown of the head. This is my vertical breakdown of the head. Some of my haircuts are based on this. Some of my haircuts are based on this. But let's talk about what's underneath the head, because that's what's going to make it important. Our largest area of the head is right here, and this is known as the parietal ridge. If you look at this, it creates a horseshoe. So a lot of people will say, take a horseshoe section. You hear a lot of artists talk about that. But this is the parietal ridge. What I like to think about is if I put a tablecloth on this table, the fabric is going to fall from this part. That's known the natural fall of the hair. And that's hugely important when the hair is dry and how it's going to fall and all that. So parietal ridge is a huge word we need to know. Another is the occipital area, or the occipital bone. You can feel this bone on your head right here. So notice a lot of people's head tips under. Why is that important? Well, if we're doing elevation, it's important to know where the head tucks under, or you'll get a haircut. If I hold the hair wrong, I will get Mrs. Brady shag, or if I hold the hair correctly for the haircut, I will get a stack. That's going to make a very big difference in a haircut, if you want a shag or a stack bob. So that's why you need to know where the occipital is. My highest point of the head is known as the apex. And you can find the apex by laying your comb where the comb lays straight across. So this would be my highest point of the head. Why is that important to know? Well, it depends on the haircut, but also for state board, when we go to board, there's a lot of sectioning where we need a 4-section parting. So we're doing two things here today. We're talking about haircutting, but we can also think about this in the long run of you going to state board. So the apex is the highest point of the head. Here is where body position is key for your customer. If your customer is leaning forward and you think the apex is there, you will get an incorrect haircut. So where your customer's head is resting is huge. So it's important that she's not crossing her legs so her shoulder is higher, or you're going to get the reference points off. But you definitely need to know where that apex is for certain haircuts. We also talk about the 4 corners of the head, and there are 4 of them. There are 2 in the back, and there's 2 in the front. The back 2 are reference points where the head pivots this way. Since we don't have a square shape, but a rounded shape, this is important to know where this rocks off, but it's also important to know where the back 2 corners rock off. We're going to see that when we start talking about over direction in our stacked swing bobs. I need my over direction to be from the back corner to a stationary guide. I might need my back corner over directed from my previous guide. That will give me a different haircut. So I need to know where I'm cutting on the head. I need to know this is turning around here. So that's why the head shape is so important underneath. So we talk about the front 2 corners. This is where the bangs lie. If I take hair from where it doesn't belong and swing it here, and I don't know where those 4 corners are, I'm going to have a short layer in my haircut. Have you ever seen anyone with a Chinese bob and all of a sudden they have a weird short piece right here and it looks really wonky? Or if you've cut this beautiful sleek A-line bob and they've got a hole right here in the haircut? That's because someone took this hair and made it travel where it doesn't belong. Now here's a hot tip. If I want to find my bang area, I'm going to place my comb on the bone structure right here. For a little mannequin girl here, where her eyebrows are painted, are a good reference point. I'm going to take my comb, place this, and I'm going to walk it straight up the head. I know the book says it goes back to the apex, but honestly, if I cut my bangs all the way back here and the natural fall is off, I'm going to have a hot mess. You can always cut more hair. You can't glue it back on after the blow dry, okay? So Brian Bowman taught me this technique of taking the comb, walking it up, taking the comb, walking it up. That will isolate my bangs. Another hot tip is put it on the forehead where it rocks on the head is where the bangs are going to live. So you can find them both directions, but for textbook talking about where the bangs lie, they're in the front 2 corners. So that's why that is super, super important to know. I have a friend of mine, Betty Thrasher, she always says that. This is so important. So let's talk about the head itself. This is really important to know also. We need to know the back from the front. So everything in front of the ear is the front of the head. So if I'm saying I'm going to take a diagonal forward line, that means the line is going to the front of the head or forward versus diagonally back. Is that going to be a different haircut? Yes, absolutely. Page boy, A-line bob. So that's why it's important to know from the front to the back. We're going to do a long haircut, and we want to know on our long haircut, it's going to be 0, but I want to cut the front and the front and the back and the back. So that's going to be really important in this. So the front, back, the sides are these areas right here. So it's basically the temple area. We have the top of the head. We have the crown of the head. What's important about this area? This is the area we're going to see some of the most growth patterns. We call them cowlicks, we call them whorls, we call them double whorls. If you want to think about it, they're the fingerprints of the hair. Everybody has fingerprints. They also have growth patterns. So you're going to see a lot of them in the crown. So sometimes the crown is cut separately, even dry, with less tension or in a certain way if they have a cowlick. So that's why this is super important. Also, you notice around the perimeter of the hair, you're going to have growth patterns. I've got horns and points right here. I also have a cowlick right here. If you cut my hair wrong right here, it is going to be boop, a hot mess. So that's why we need to know things about the hair. So we've got the top, the crown, the parietal, the back, and this is also called the occipital or the nape of the area. And then obviously we just talked about the bang area. Okay? So I'm back. I had to move a little bit because I want to do some diagramming for you because I think that's really important. I'm a visual learner. Some people love to read. Some people love to hear it. I'm a visual learner, so I tend to do a lot of visual demos. That's just my personal style. Also, I'm also kind of known as the why guy. So a lot of times I will say, this is why. I didn't make it up. Somebody taught it to me, and I've been really grateful for a lot of teachers in my life. Okay? So the main thing we want to talk to you about also today, our haircuts are made up of 3 things. They are lines, they are sections, and they are angles. When we talk about a line, we talked about this a lot in chapter 14. We have 2 types of lines. We have straight lines, and they are horizontal. So my bangs could be horizontal. My perimeter of my long haircut could be horizontal. It gives me weight. Believe me, if I wear a striped t-shirt horizontally, I'm going to look a lot wider. Right? I have vertical lines. This gives me height. This gives me skinniness. If I cut a haircut vertically versus horizontally, I will get an overall different silhouette. You'll notice Miss Mimi cuts a lot of her haircuts horizontally. You'll notice I cut a lot on a vertical. Also, another way to cut is diagonal. Diagonal keeps you working with the rounds of the head. So this would be diagonal forward on the head. So if I've got a swing bob, it's going to go diagonal forward. If I go diagonal back, I will get a page boy. These are all straight lines. Guess what other line we've got? We've got curved lines. So if I want a super geometric haircut, I'm going to cut with straight lines. If I want soft, fluffy, movie hair, like Jennifer Aniston's haircut. She has sweepy bangs. She has face framing. If I want rounded bangs, I am going to use curved lines in my haircut. So when we say we have 3 different things in hair cuttings of lines, sections, angles, there's our lines. Okay? The other thing we talk about is our sections. And we talked about this when we started the chapter. Here's our sections. I think of sectioning of where I am on the head, because that's important. Also, it gives me control. I section my haircuts for haircutting, blow drying, foiling. Anything I do, I want control. I want to know where I am on the head. In foiling, I may section my haircut like an X. And I know I am going to start on panel 1, panel 2, panel 3, panel 4. But that also works with hair cutting as well. So the sections are huge in hair cutting. The last thing I want to talk about is angles. And this is geometry part, guys. And may I tell you, I almost failed geometry in high school. So I've got the little head shape here. Angles basically are when 2 lines intersect. So if I have a straight line here and a straight line intersecting there, I have a 90-degree angle. That's important to know in hair cutting. Or a 45, or a 0, or a 180. So what makes the lines? The lines are the head. So here is one line. My strand of hair will be my other line. So if I am creating a 90-degree haircut, this creates the 90. If I'm creating a 0-degree haircut, that means the hair is hanging straight down like this. 45 is lower, 90, and then 180. And this angle depends on where you are in the head. Again, this is why head shape is important, because a 90-degree looks very different on your head shape than a 90-degree here or here. also talking about a 180, which means a long layered haircut, or what was known back in the 70s as a gypsy haircut, or if you think of Stevie Nicks' vintage haircut, that hair was held at 90, lifted up, there's your 180. Is that 180 here? No ma'am, and no sir. It is 90 here. That becomes 180. So my cutting line becomes over here. That's what's important in line section angles. So let's talk about sectioning, because the last thing I want to teach you how to do today is how to section your doll. We talked about this a minute ago for state board reasons, but also it's important for hair cutting. I'm going to do two different sectionings to start off with. So you can grab your doll, and I'm going to do this on dry hair. I want you to do it on dry hair first, because if you're doing a chemical service, we do that on dry hair. So when we start doing our mock chemicals, we'll know how to section our doll for those. We can also do this on wet hair too, but I'm going to do it the hard way first because it is a little harder to do. We have a thing called a profile parting. That means I have a center line and it comes all the way to the back of the head. Look at my hand. What I'm going to do is take my comb it down to my finger. It's going to touch my finger. I'm going to take my thumb, pinch, and pull. This will give me a really clean parting. So in the back, my hand will be center back underneath this hair. Hello there. See it? Woohoo! It's right there. So I'm gaming for that line, okay? So that's going to start my horizontal parting. So I'm standing in front of the mirror, or you, and I hope I have this straight. I'm going to take girlfriend, and I'm going to comb her hair straight back. I'm going to look over, hello, and I'm going to part her right in the middle. Okay? Deborah doesn't have a lot of growth patterns, thank goodness. Maybe a few hairs planted in wrong, maybe not. So I've got the front to the apex. Okay? Now I'm going to take my doll, and now I think of my comb as a pencil. I'm going to draw with it. I can draw this way. I can also take my comb and hold it like a pencil. This is up to you. This is your body mechanics. I can teach you how I do it. Your body's going to want to do its own thing. So there's not a whole, I don't want to say there's not right and wrongs. There are at times, but a lot of times this is about your eye-hand coordination, not mine. And I will tell you I'm the least coordinated person on the planet. Okay? So now I'm going to draw this line straight down. Bam. I have touched my finger with the tip of the comb. I've got my thumb on the comb. I'm going to do a little trick called blousing. Thank you, Chris Barron. Open and pull. Now I have a profile parting. Now here's the thing I see everybody do. Twist, 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 twist. This is what I call a Zulu knot. When you're blow drying, this creates a crink in your hair. Therefore, you have to blow dry twice as hard. So I'm going to make this easy peasy. Clip. If you're using prong clips, leg up. Again, now we're going to talk about a radial parting. Radial means ear to ear. I have my apex, and here's my trick. I'm going to touch the back of her ear. And basically, we're going from the apex to a finger width behind the ear. The finger width is this way, but I'm going to tilt it this way, and then the meaty part of my fingers right there. Okay? Again, taking the comb at the apex, I'm going to comb straight down. Vertical, 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 vertical. Pinch and pull. Bam. Now, we talked about this a minute ago, and I want to reinforce this. This is hugely important. If girlfriend is like this, if you've got your mannequin down, if you've got your customer down, you will not have a vertical line. For state board, you will be graded off for not having a 4-section part. Are some haircuts cut this way? Yes. State board? No. Okay? Just kind of an FYI. You know, I kind of like teach theory, board, a lot of stuff. Okay? There we go. There's that side. Notice I am right-handed. Notice I started on this side. For you right-hand students, this is the better side to start on. Whatever I'm doing for lefty guys, do the opposite. It will be your easier side. I'll try to break it up as we teach, okay? So I'll show you which section to start on if you're right-handed or you're left-handed, because it does make a difference, and believe me, I feel your pain. Okay, again, this time my meaty part is I'm touching her ear or the edge of her ear with this part of my fingernail. That puts my meaty part right here. So I am touching her like this, down, touching that meaty part, pinch and pull, straight line. I know every one of you, I hear you out there saying, you just make this look so simple. Well, it takes practice. I've done this a few times. So if you don't get it the first time, don't beat yourself up, okay? Because it takes time to do this. Try it over and over again. And I know some of us aren't as patient as others, and I can understand that. But basically, there is my 4-section parting. So when I come back next time, we're going to talk about angles and haircuts and elevation, over direction, and then we're going to use this 4-section parting method to teach a long 0-degree haircut and how I would do that for a customer in the salon. So I want to use technical training, state board training, and how we can do that in our salon environment.